Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're talking directly to you, the seasoned pro in data center design, maybe comm systems, structured cabling.
Yeah, the people who've actually been in the trenches, right?
Right.
Building things, solving real problems.
Exactly. You've, built server rooms, wrestled with complex wiring. Your knowledge is absolutely battle-tested. You've got that real-world proof.
For sure. We're talking about folks whose understanding isn't just from a book. It's forged in the heat of project deadlines, critical system rollouts.
Right. And because you have all that deep experience, you might be thinking, okay, why bother with something like a DCDC certification, the data center design consultant?
My track record speaks for itself, right?
Precisely. Well, our mission today, our deep dive, is really to explore why that DCDC credential can actually be a really significant asset, even for someone at your level.
Think of it as turning all that hard-won experience into something, well, globally recognized. A formal credential.
Okay, so you've got the experience, we know that, but the DCDC, that's like the industry standard proof point, isn't
It
it?
is. It's kind of the badge that communicates a certain level of understanding before you even start talking.
Right. So let's unpack this a little. Imagine you walk into a big client meeting, you've delivered tons of high-stakes projects, your gut feeling for problems is, like, spot on.
Your intuition is sharp, yeah.
But how do you make sure that deep knowledge comes across in, say, a formal proposal, or when you're up against competitors in a bid? How do you quantify that intuition?
And that's where that DCDC certification, it acts as a really powerful signal. It tells clients, partners, even employers straight away that your expertise goes beyond just the hands-on stuff.
It's more than just execution.
Exactly. It shows you've got a solid grasp of the key standards, the accepted protocols, the whole professional framework that, underpins our industry.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. It shows your approach isn't just, well, this worked last time, but that it actually aligns with global best practices.
Yeah, you're not just following your company's internal playbook, which might be great, but you're operating within a recognized international structure.
So the DCDC kind of translates your know-how into this globally understood language.
Right, perfectly put. And
Yeah.
think about the bigger picture. Contracts, compliance demands, future-proofing designs, these are huge.
Absolutely critical.
That DCDC credential, it can seriously set you apart. It lifts you from being someone who can implement to the lead designer who gets the whole strategic picture, benchmarked against industry norms.
So you walk into that meeting not just with a great portfolio, but with that DCDC reinforcing your strategic thinking.
Okay? It adds that layer of formal credibility.
Now let's tackle something. Maybe a potential hurdle. You've built your expertise hands-on, right? Maybe self-taught, years at OJT.
On-the-job training, yeah. Lots of us came up that way.
And sometimes maybe certifications can feel a bit academic, like they don't fully get the value of that gritty, real-world knowledge.
That's a fair point, and it brings up a key question. How does someone like you, with all that field experience, approach an exam that really focuses on structured, standard-based reasoning?
Because your intuition, honed over years, that's incredibly valuable. We're not discounting that.
Not at all. But these certification exams, they often prioritize sticking to the established methods, the documented best practices.
Right. Like in the field, you might find a clever workaround, a MacGyver solution based on your gut and what's available.
You solve the immediate problem efficiently.
But the DCDC exam, it wants to see if you follow the official blueprint. And critically, if you can explain why that blueprint is the best practice according to safety codes, international standards, that sort of thing.
It's less about the what you did and more about the why according to the standards. It's testing your understanding of the textbook rationale, the logic behind choices, those non-negotiable safety and compliance rules.
But, and this is important, right? It's not about saying your experience is wrong or invalid.
Absolutely not. It's about taking that practical wisdom, that intuition, and learning how to frame it within the recognized body of knowledge that DCDC represents.
So learning to speak that common language.
Exactly. The language that everyone in the data center world globally understands and respects.
Okay, so for listeners thinking, all right, I see the value, but how on earth do I fit studying for this into my already crazy schedule? Let's get practical. What's a realistic study plan look like for a busy pro?
Well, the absolute first step, and you can't skip this, is an honest self-assessment, a reality check.
Okay, even with tons of experience.
Especially then, perhaps. Because everyone has areas where maybe their knowledge isn't quite cutting edge or as deep as they think. You need to find your potential blind spots.
Like maybe you're amazing with camera systems, but haven't really kept up with the latest in, say, liquid cooling.
Or your structural cabling knowledge is based on standards from 5 years ago, not the absolute latest revisions. It happens.
Makes sense. So how do you even start that self-check? Where do you look?
The official BICSI candidate handbook is your go-to resource here.
BICSI, the Building Industry Consulting Service International. Big name in the industry.
Leading association, yeah. Their handbook lays out all the knowledge domains the DCDC exam covers. You can literally go through it and map out, okay, strong here, maybe need to brush up there.
Got it. So step 1, honest audit using the BICSI handbook. What's step 2 for someone juggling work and life?
Step 2 is about studying smart. Study with purpose, not just pressure. You're probably not learning everything from scratch.
Right, you know a lot of this already.
It's more about reframing what you know, using the standardized terminology, aligning your practical methods with the official best practices. Think of it as translating your expertise.
Translating, I like that. Less intimidating than going back to school. So what specific resources should they focus on? What's the core reading list?
Okay, the absolute foundation, the BICSI TDMM, Telecommunications Distribution Methods Manual. You just have to know it.
The big one.
Then you need to get really comfortable with key standards. And CISA 942 is huge. That's the data center infrastructure standard. Covers everything, site selection, security, the works.
Okay, TIA 942. What else?
ISO IEC 11001, that focuses on generic cabling. Also very important. And beyond those core docs, look at real-world case studies. Good data center engineering journals, publications, they often have detailed analyses.
So it's not just about memorizing rules, but understanding how they apply in practice and how your experience lines up.
Precisely. It's all about alignment. How do the decisions you've made stack up against the recommendations and the requirements in these key standards? That's the mindset.
Okay. Now, our listeners, they're not just connecting cables, they're thinking system strategy, the whole infrastructure.
Yeah.
How does the DCDC exam test that higher level?
Yeah, that's a great question. The exam definitely goes beyond just knowing how to, bolt things together. It really probes your ability for system thinking, but specifically through that standardized lens. Meaning, can you look at a complex design and predict where it might fail? Can you justify your choices using global standards, not just personal preference? Can you plan effectively for redundancy, for scalability, for sustainability? All those critical
Should you give us an example? Like what kind of question gets at that mix of theory and judgment?
Sure. You might see a scenario, something like, okay, given this site has these specific environmental risks, maybe it's prone to flooding or seismic activity, which cabling system and routing plan would best meet performance and survivability needs, according to TIA 942 and ISO IEC 24764.
Oh, okay. So it's not just what would you do? It's what do the standards say you should do in this specific tricky situation?
Exactly. And that's the mental shift. You have to consciously train yourself. When you see a question like that, pause. Think, okay, which standards apply here? Go back to those requirements. Base your answer on them, not just what you did on your last project or what your current company SOP says.
That standards first approach is key then.
Absolutely critical for the exam.
All right, shifting gears a bit. We've talked study materials, but for these experienced pros, are there more advanced tools or resources they should maybe look into? Things beyond the basic books?
Definitely. Given their level, they should be digging deeper. I'd highly recommend looking at white papers and detailed post-mortem reports.
Postmortems from actual incidents.
Yeah, especially ones published by the big players, think Microsoft, Google, AWS, when they've had significant data center outages or issues. Analyzing real-world failures gives you incredible insight into system resilience, where things break, and how best practices could have helped, or did help.
Wow, yeah, learning from major failures.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Much better than just reading abstract rules. What else?
Simulation tools can be really valuable for networking, getting hands-on with something like Wireshark for packet analysis, or GNS3 for network simulation. That builds practical understanding of complex behaviors.
Enter the physical side.
Even things like airflow planning software, getting a feel for those environmental factors is crucial. And finally, don't underestimate discussion communities.
Like online forums.
Exactly. Places like Stack Exchange, Reddit has a good networking subreddit, professional BICSI groups online, engaging in scenario discussions, asking questions, seeing how peers tackle problems. That's invaluable learning. You get diverse perspectives.
Good tips. Okay, let's talk exam day. You're prepped, you walk in. What's a common mistake experienced people make? A pitfall to avoid?
I think one of the biggest ones for seasoned folks is Honestly, overthinking the simpler questions.
Really? How so?
Well, because they have so much practical knowledge, they might start looking for hidden traps or complex nuances in a question that's actually pretty straightforward. They read too much into it.
Assuming it's trickier than it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Have to remember, these certification exams are generally designed to be clear. They're testing knowledge, not trying to trick you with confusing language. Most of the time, anyway.
So trust the question, take it at face value more often than not.
Pretty much. So maybe a quick mental checklist for exam day.
Let's hear it.
Okay. 1. Industry standards first. Always prioritize them over your old company's specific ways of doing things. 2. If multiple answers seem plausible, pick the one that aligns best with global standards, not just your personal gut feeling or past experience.
We got it. Standards rule.
3. Manage your time. Don't get stuck on one tough question. Flag it, move on, come back if you can. 4. Trust your prep. You've put in the work. Don't suddenly try to wing it or second-guess everything at last minute.
Solid advice. So let's wrap this up. What's the final takeaway message for that experienced data center pro listening right now, wondering if DCDC is worth the effort?
The bottom line is this. Recognize the incredible value of the expertise you already have. The DCDC isn't about turning you into an expert. You likely are one.
It's validation.
It's exactly that. It's formal validation. It demonstrates that expertise against a respected international benchmark. It's a credential that can genuinely open doors.
Doors to what? Like promotions, different roles?
Yeah, maybe advancement where you are, maybe interesting consulting gigs, maybe leading bigger, more complex, higher stakes projects. It adds that official stamp.
So the challenge is real. The prep takes commitment. But the payoff in terms of recognition and opportunity is significant. Sounds like a worthwhile move for those looking to level up.
Absolutely. I'd say embrace that challenge, get strategic with your preparation, and go get the formal recognition that, frankly, your years of hard work and experience have already earned you.
That's really well put. And maybe a final thought for everyone listening to chew on. How can this structured process, getting a certification like DCDC, bridge that gap between the gut feelings, the tacit knowledge you've built over years, and the explicit written down requirements of global standards?
Yeah.
And what new opportunities might open up for your career once you've made that connection? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.